I pinched my pennies, I saved my allowance, I Scrooged my McDucks, and I sold one of my kidneys, and I was able to make what I'm considering a fairly substantial upgrade to my camera kit. I thought it would be fun if we talked about it. What is up, people? Dunna here, and today we're going to talk about these things that you see on the table before you. But if you don't already know what they are, take a guess down in the comments below. I'd love to see what you think I picked up. Now, upgrading your camera gear can be kind of a nerve-wracking process, and it's not to be taken lightly necessarily, unless you just have like unlimited money. But camera gear, as most people find out the further they get into it, is really expensive, and there's so much of it out there, and a lot of it is really good. So how do you make a choice what you're going to get next or what you're going to get first? And I thought it would be kind of cool to talk about why I made the choices that I did. As you can see on the table, I made 3 choices. I got a new camera, I got a new lens, and I got a new tripod. Let's begin with the tripod. As far as a tripod, what I typically am looking for is something that I can carry around with me every day. I throw it in the side of my backpack and it comes with me everywhere. Even if I don't use it, which is like 80% of the time, it's always there just in case. For the last 6 or 7 months, I've been carrying around the Vanguard VO 265AB, which is an aluminum travel tripod, and it does a pretty good job. But there were a couple of things about it that I wasn't a huge fan of, and the straw that broke the camel's back is that the ball head started to wiggle a little bit, and no matter how much I would tighten down that top plate, it was still wiggling, so it was time to look into a new tripod. Now, I reached out on Twitter and you guys were really helpful in making my decision, and a good handful of people told me to look into three-legged thing. And what we can see here is the three-legged thing Punk's Brian. Now, it's a very similar concept to kind of any travel tripod, but it's got a couple of things that I'm really excited about. First and foremost, with my Vanguard tripod, I always ran into the issue that it was only 59 inches tall at its maximum height. Personally, I'm 6'1", so that's 73 inches. So if the camera is only up 59 inches, I'm always having to point it upwards when I'm filming myself. The three-legged thing Brian goes up to 75 inches. So if I really wanted to, I could actually get shots looking down at me without having to like put it up on a table or anything. It's got twist locks, which I actually kind of prefer. I know there's a lot of debate about that on the internet, but whatever, I like the twist locks. They're not bad, and these ones feel really good. It's carbon fiber, so it's super light. It's only 16 inches when it's folded up like this, so it fits on the side of my backpack really nicely. It comes with a slick ball head, and it comes with this cool little tool that, unfortunately, when I opened the box, the tool was actually broken, so they're sending me a replacement right now, but I'm not too worried about that. It was just kind of a little extra, and they're replacing it, so no big deal. Now, this is the most money that I've ever spent on a tripod, so I was definitely a little bit nervous about it. It's funny how those like important things, sometimes you don't necessarily want to spend all the money. So up until now, I've always kind of bought either cheap tripods or ones that I found that were on a really good sale or something like that. So this guy, full price, it was like $400 Canadian, so it's not a cheap tripod necessarily. I'm excited to use this. I'll keep you guys posted on how it's working out. If you have any questions, make sure to let me know. Also, let me know what tripod you're using. If you have a good travel tripod suggestion. I guess I have a return policy, so maybe if you guys have a better suggestion, I could switch it around. The next piece of my upgrades was the Sony Zeiss f4 16-35 lens. Now, this one was a little bit difficult for me because I already have that range covered. I have a Sigma 16mm f1.4 that I really love, and then I have my 18-105 f4 that's kind of my all-around lens. But I wanted to get something that had a bit of a shorter zoom range so that I could make quick adjustments and were just kind of to cover my wide angles. Being that it's a Sony Zeiss lens, we've got that nice Sony Zeiss quality. It's super sharp. I'm really loving it so far. If you caught my video about the Feitech AK4500 gimbal, I was using this lens to shoot that entire video on my A6500 and A6400, and I really love how it turned out. Even though it's an f4 lens, it still did a really great job, and if you put enough light, I'm not too too worried about it. Now, some of you might be thinking, Dunna, this is a full frame lens. Why wouldn't you get something like the 10-18 to cover your super wide? Or why wouldn't you get the 18-35 Sigma with an adapter? The reason is because I knew that it was probably inevitable that I would eventually go full frame. And I wanted something that would work on both my APS-C system and on my full frame system once I eventually got it. A little while ago, I did a live stream when Sony announced the a6100 and a6600, talking about my thoughts about those cameras. And in that video, I explained that I had been kind of waiting for that announcement to decide whether I was going to go up to full frame or whether I was going to wait for whatever Sony put out next in APS-C. And as I'm sure that you can tell by this point, I've made that decision. It didn't take me long after getting the full frame lens to get a full frame camera, and this is the A7 III. Now, I'm pretty sure this camera is about a year old at this point, and it took me that much time basically to make my decision on it, watching all sorts of reviews and making sure that I was making the right choice, because I am really happy with the quality that comes out of my APS-C cameras. I'm currently shooting on the a6400 here and the a6500 there, and they produce fantastic quality. There's absolutely nothing wrong with it. There are just a few advantages that come with going full frame. And if Sony was to put out the camera that would have knocked both the a6400 and a6500 out of the water, I might have stayed full APS-C, but they made some upgrades that are very exciting, and we're gonna talk a little bit more about that later, but it wasn't the thing that made me go that direction. So why did I choose to get the A7 III? There are a couple of reasons, but first I need some coffee. It's not part of my camera kit, but I really like it. First and foremost, I thought it was time for an upgrade to my a6500. I've been really loving the a6400 that I have now, but the a6500, as much as it's a great camera and stuff, doesn't have some of the same features, and it's weird hopping between cameras if they don't necessarily have the same features. For example, the a6400 has the HLG profiles, but the 6500 does not. So I try not to shoot in HLG because I know I won't be able to exactly match the footage. With the A7 III, it has those HLG profiles, so now I can match HLG to HLG if I'm using two cameras on a setup. Right now I'm shooting Cine 2 because both the 6400 and the 6500 have that. I know it doesn't have a flip screen like the a6400 does, but it's got a lot of the same features. It's got similar autofocus features. It doesn't have the screen dimming like there is in the a6500. And so I think it's just gonna match up a lot better with my experience on the a6400. That's the squad now, a6400, A7 III. Now, another reason for getting the A7 III instead of, let's say, waiting for the a6600 is because of this lens. So I went with a full frame lens, and I got the f4 version. Some of you may have wondered why I got the f4 instead of getting the G Master f2.8. I shoot f4 and f2.8 a lot on my APS-C cameras. And because the look changes between APS-C and full frame, I knew that by getting the f4 lens, I get to keep a similar look to what I'm used to, but I get it at a significantly cheaper price, because that G Master it's pricey. Beautiful, but pricey. Also with full frame, I can go a lot wider. It's a little bit tough to find good wide glass for APS-C. There's the 10-18, and that's about it. So by getting the 16-35 and then getting the full frame camera, now I can go way wider, which I'm very excited to experiment with. I don't personally like it too much for vlogging, but we'll see. In fact, I already filmed something as soon as I got this camera in my studio, which is a fairly tight space, and it worked out really well. Another reason that I went to the A7 III instead of keeping with APS-C is because of the low light performance. On the newer cameras in the APS-C line, they didn't really improve the sensor at all. So I was hoping maybe they had some crazy new technology that would basically make it better in the low light or something like that, but they didn't. So full frame made sense because I do end up shooting in a lot of low light situations in my studio and in other places, and it's just so handy to be able to crank up the ISO and not have to worry as much about noise or degradation of the quality. And finally, the thing that really pushed me over the edge is I really wanted to get the full frame look. It does have a different look. Like I was talking about before with the f4 lenses, immediately I can see the difference. And I'm very excited to be able to play with that and to be able to choose when I want that and when I want the APS-C look, when I want to crop in. So these are all the things going through my head when I decided to upgrade my kit. I made 3 significant upgrades and then a couple of little things, like for example, I got the L bracket to go along with this, and I got a couple extra batteries to go along with the camera. Because when you buy a new camera, you don't just buy a new camera, you need all those little accessories and things that you're used to. And so of course, it costs a little bit more than just the camera. But as always, I wanna hear from you. What do you think of the upgrades that I made? And also, if you could upgrade your kit, what would you get? Let me know in the comments below. I'll leave links to all of this stuff, everything that I've purchased. All my gear links are kind of always down there, but I'll leave this stuff kind of closer to the top so you can check it out. So chances are next time you see me, we'll be filming a little bit more with this. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Hey there, Mr. Lance. Hey, A73. I don't know what I'm doing with my life.